Hello, sisters. Okay, so I am extremely freaking tired. Uh, I'm gonna make this really short today because I worked, and then I came home from work, and then I cooked and did some cleaning and chores around the house, and then I sat down and started reading. And 5 minutes into the reading, I was falling asleep. So I tried to focus my hardest, and I had thoughts while I was reading, but I'm not sure about my capacity to rearticulate my thoughts now after the reading is over. We're gonna try. Mm. Also, I remember the interview on Friday, aka tomorrow, which it depends which time zone you're in. Um, but for me, it's tomorrow. Is on Twitter. I had said, and on the community messages, I had said it was canceled because of a conflict, but it's been uncanceled. So disregard that. We're having the thing tomorrow. It's at 10 a.m. GMT, 5 a.m. EST, which is 2 a.m. PST, which is 8 p.m. Melbourne time, which is 9 p.m. Queensland time. And let's not pretend that I'm super confident with all the time zones. I know for a fact it's 5 a.m. EST, 10 a.m. GMT. So figure out what time that is for you. Okay. It's going to be a very different viewership because I never stream at that hour, but that's what works for the Australian women. So, all right. Oh, right. 1 second. Sorry. Kind of dropped some books on the floor. So, just so you know what she's referencing. First, there came this Lesbian Ethics, which is a feminist quarterly type thing. I don't know. I think there was 4 volumes a year. I might be wrong. Oh, there's at least 5. I don't freaking know. But it was a publication that happened multiple times a year, and you could subscribe to it. Then after that came this. Sarah Lucia Hoagland is was one of the editors of that, and then they distilled it into this. This I got at a women's land thing this summer. Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not totally clear on which edition I have, or how many editions there's been, or if they're very different, or what, but I don't know. So I want to read this on the channel eventually, because if you look at the table of contents, it's lots of short little readings. But it's quite a hefty thing. It might be the kind of what I was thinking, because it's so hefty, was that we could do there's 6 sections. Section 2, for example, is called The Feminine Virtues and Female Agency. What we might do is read section 1 and then read a different book, and then read section 2 and then read a different book, so that we're not reading only one book for 6 months straight or something. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. So yeah, this is the book she's talking about. That this was the first edition when it came out. She's that's what she was responding to. Because the first edition came out in 1988, right? All right. So this, I cannot believe how prescient it is. 7:30 p.m. Adelaide time. Oh yeah, hey Izzy and Cyber. I cannot believe how prescient this essay is, like, right now, because tomorrow's interview that we're going to have is about basically, as far as I see it, complacency with, like, white nationalism. I'm sure women will be like, wow, Benji, that's, like, so harsh, or, like, that's so, like, moralistic of you, or whatever. I don't fucking, whatever. But that's genuinely what I think is happening. So I had a really good discussion with an Australian friend of mine last night. I was kind of trying to be like, what's going on in Australia? Like, give me, like, the background of, like, the layout of what women think and act upon when it comes to race politics in, like, the gender critical women that you've met or seen or talked to in your country. And one of the things that she said to me was that these women think that they're feminists, and because they think that they're feminists, they think that they're on the side of the right, like, not right left, like, right as in, like, correct, and therefore they think that, like, anything they do that they view as, like, towards the goal of feminism must also be right. Like, she basically was trying to say that they don't have, like, a complex ethics, they don't have, like, a nuanced morality, they don't have, like, a moral compass that can question itself. So because they think that they're feminist, they think that, like, anything they do must be feminist and therefore must be, like, righteous and good, and that there's, like, zero fucking questioning. As you all know, I'm like freaking obsessed with Marilyn Frye. Throughout this essay, I was like, the humility. Like, I love her so much because not only in her writings, but just in general, it seems to me, she's constantly questioning herself. She's questioning the women around her. She's questioning the assumptions that she's gotten to. Like, it's crazy. You know, like, even in this book, there's some of her earlier essays in the book. She literally will have, like, a postscript and be like, okay, so I read this essay 4 years ago, and since then, this is what, like, I've revised my position. She's very, very open to questioning herself, not only in terms of, like, logical conclusions, but in terms of, like, priorities, values, like, everything. And I think that if you're going to be any stripe of feminist, like, I think a lot of gender critical women are actually not feminist at all, but they view themselves as kind of being, like, women oriented or, like, women supporting or something like that. They're, like, kind of feminist light, I guess. I think that if you're any stripe of feminist, whether it's, like, lesbian separatist to, like, whatever that is, you should understand that you are operating in patriarchy, and therefore the values you have, the priorities you have, like, the way that she describes it here, she's like, this, you've basically taken on your father's morality. Where was that? Yeah, that your citizenship, aka, like, your involvement in society as, like, an agent, is something that you are basically mirroring from your father. And so, regardless of whether you are, like, one of these women who is, like, the Posey Parker type, who is like, the feminists are mean and bad, or you are, like, a hardcore rad femme who's very isolated, like me, you should fucking recognize that your instinct of what's right and wrong is something that you learn from the people who are trying to fuck you over, which is kind of her point throughout this. Hey, Allie. And if you know that your instinct for what's right and wrong and your, like, reasoning and process for to arrive at what you think is right and wrong was taught to you by the people who are trying to fuck you over, it shouldn't be like an anxiety inducing thing for another woman to say, hey, the process by which you got to thinking that this is right, I think is faulty. That shouldn't make you upset. What that should make you think is, oh shit, let's explore that together. Because, of course, my process for that is something that, like, every day when I go out and interact with society is, like, reinforced based on patriarchal phallocratic values. So if a woman is saying to me, hey, I think the process by which you arrived at this conclusion that this is the right or the good, I think that was faulty and it's led you astray, you should be like Marilyn Frye or many other essayists that I love and take a step back, be open to questioning yourself, be open to questioning the women around you, and like reflect on like maybe what I did was right, maybe what I did was good, but let's reflect on the process of how I got there, right? I don't understand well, I do understand it, but I try really hard to have like humility when it comes to my opinions, my thought processes, my conclusions, my like statements. Like the way I see it is, I don't know, it's this essay made me think so much because in the first like 2 pages, she almost positions it as like to think that you know what right and wrong is like arrogant. Like she doesn't say those words, but that's kind of how she's like, first of all, why the fuck are you the arbiter of what's right and wrong? And if you are the arbiter, why do you think that you are like entitled to act upon it and control those around you upon acting upon that? So I do feel like I have my opinion, I have my like moral compass, and then I like speak and act upon that. But I'm open to like revising it in future, or another woman telling me, "Hey, Benji, I think that you missed this aspect of this," or and then like thinking it through and either defending my position or revising. Like, you know what I mean? I try not to be arrogant about it. This is something I talked about a few streams ago, where when she was talking about women with authority trying to like speak in like a men's voice, um, or like, what was the word she used? Not men's voice, but in that, she was kind of like, by doing that, you're doing a disservice to women. That the true way to like build autonomy for women and authority for women is to speak like as a woman in a woman's voice, and therefore open up the path to other women to do the same thing. And so I fall in this like kind of catch 22 where I'm like, am I being confident and forthright, or am I being like arrogant and egotistical? Like I try to like balance it. I'm not sure how successful I am, but I think the fact that I'm like conscious of it and trying to like be aware of it counts for something. I don't fucking know. Izzy says I have a lot of integrity. Honestly, that's like the thing that I think about a lot. Like, if someone is to watch the video I'm making right now in 10 years, are they going to think, oh, watching this, I see how Benji has changed her opinions, but I see that she's been trying to be authentic throughout, and so it makes me respect her more. That's like how I think about myself. That's how I want women to look at me. That's like the kind of legacy, I guess, I want to make for myself. I think a lot of women who are really self-righteous and like politically two-dimensional do not conceive of their actions in that way. I don't know. Yeah, like here she talks about taking your morality and trying to like impose it on other people as like an act of domination, and that when we do that, we are trying to like recreate our father's citizenship, so our father's like place in society. And so for me, when I'm reading that, what I'm thinking is like, well, I have an opinion, and I think a process that led me to that opinion on what's right and wrong in any given situation. And I will try to express to women why I think that is what it is. And I think, at least like myself, the way I interpret this, and like with my own thoughts, I keep saying, enough preamble. What I think is that the way to have your own sense of morality and to be like assertive as a woman, but not dominating, is to offer up your process that leads to your moral compass, but not expect that others must do what you're doing. I've tried really hard to do that kind of thing for like the last 2 years. So like I'm really against heterosexuality, or like the institution of heterosexuality. I'm really against like, you know, a lot of like stuff that's really mainstream. And so like when it comes to separatism stuff, like where I think that women should not be like partnering with men financially, socially, sexually, you know, I will like offer my 2 cents on it. But I'm not judgmental about it. I don't try to use like a punishment reward like system in the conversation to like shame the women or reward the women. Like my purpose is to say this is what I think like right and wrong. This is what I think is like good and bad. You don't need to think the same as me. This is just what I think. Like, you know, think about it yourself maybe if you want. And I'm not sure if that's me being female socialized or if that's me trying to like show humility and not dominate other women. I don't fucking know. All I know is that like that's what I'm trying to do, and I hope it comes across the way that I intended. I don't fucking know. Yeah. Now let's flip this. So I keep thinking about this like neo-Nazi association bullshit that's happening the last couple years. And let's think about it from the position of the self-righteous woman. So the self-righteous woman is a woman who says, my mission is so important that any sacrifice is worth making to reach the goal. That's what the self-righteous woman says, right? And the self-righteous woman says anyone who criticizes me is against my goals and my mission. So the self-righteous woman is not open to humility. She is not open to self-questioning. And my point specifically in the context of this paragraph we're talking about is she is not taking a position of, well, I think this and you could think something different and we can like agree to disagree, and or we can even vociferously disagree and be in tension with each other but not try to control each other. That's not what the self-righteous woman thinks. The self-righteous woman, especially in online spaces in the last couple years, is like, you're with me or against me. And if you do not fucking agree with me and support me and do what I do and say what I say, it's because you're like on the side of patriarchy. And you're on the side of, you know, all the whoever the boogeyman is at the time, like the troon or whatever. And I think that's so harmful, not only in like the obvious way, but also when it comes to thinking. Like when I say that these women are like politically two-dimensional, this is kind of what I'm talking about, where I'm like, you can't explain to me why your moral process is better than mine or more well-reasoned than mine or has a stronger foundation than mine because you don't have a moral process. My moral process might be flawed, and my moral process might not be as well-reasoned as I think it. Like, you know, I don't know. But what I do know is that, like, I'm willing to think about it and talk about it and reflect on it, and you're not. And I'm willing to take the position of, I think I'm right, but I don't want to control you. And the self-righteous woman is not taking that position. The self-righteous woman is taking the position of, if you won't do what I'm doing and say what I'm saying, you're fucking evil. And in a lot of ways, I view that as obviously stopping thinking, because it leads to this kind of like group mentality, right? But also I view it as misogynist, because like what she mentioned with Mary Daly, of like the woman is fundamentally evil. Why is the woman evil? The woman is evil if she's heretical, if she's rebellious, if she's all, you know, the things that a whore, a slut, a witch, whatever those things are. And I think this, it really has to do with like freedom of thought. If you are on like the right side, the good side, right? Which a lot of gender critical women, they all think that they're like on the right side, the good side. First of all, you shouldn't be scared of being questioned, of having your morality questioned, because you're righteous. So it should be easy to prove that you're righteous. The other thing is they position themselves as like the rebellious, like they're like, we're the witches, like we're the demonized women, like. But if you're trying to like promote a uniform, not even promote, if you're trying to enforce a uniformity of action and thought, then you are not enabling women to be like heretics, to be rebellious. You know, you're not doing that. You're enabling women to follow like a program. And that's like, that's so restrictive in terms of thought and action. And the result of this is like, is misogyny, because you're saying like if the woman doesn't do what I think is right, which is like a dominating mentality, which I think is like a mirror of like men's morality, right? Therefore, you're being mean to women. Therefore, you're being a woman wrong. Therefore, you deserve to face misogyny. Like there's and this is something too that it drives me up the fucking wall and proves that they have no fucking integrity. And I'm not trying to say that I have integrity, therefore I'm better, or I have integrity, therefore my opinions are better than theirs. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just want to point this out because it drives me fucking insane. Like, it's so hypocritical. I remember a specific situation, I think it was in New Zealand, where some elected official who was a woman ended up in like a protest situation. She ended up on her knees, or she was crawling on the ground. I don't know. I think she got pushed over or something. And there are a ton of gender critical women making like sexualized comments about how she's like on her knees, like sucking dick for the troons, or this style, this attitude of things to say. And my number one thought is like, okay, so your morality, your concept of right and wrong is so self-righteous that it justifies you saying things that are blatantly misogynistic, things that if you saw any other woman say in any other context, you would immediately clock as like, that's fucking misogynistic. But because you're so self-righteous, no one in your own camp is going to criticize each other. No one from the outside who criticizes you is going to like be intelligible to you because you're so self-righteous. And to me, then you don't actually have like a moral process. You don't actually have like an internal ethics. All you have is like a set of like steps and rhetoric to follow to be like correct. And I just like, I think that the fact that it reduces thinking and reduces flexibility of discussion leads to like the misogyny, because they're replicating the morality of patriarchy. So how could it not lead to misogyny? I don't know if what I'm trying to say is like coming across the way I mean it, but I just think it's like so fucking defeatist. Like it's just so fucking disappointing. It makes me really sad. Yes, exactly. Possible person says that's so disgusting, and yet I'm not even surprised. Lots of feminism for me, but not for anyone I don't like. Yes, every single woman needs to read Right Wing Woman. That book is like the shit. Read Right Wing Woman. Yeah. Okay. So Kitty Cat says integrity is important. As long as you're open to discuss one's position and explain one's position, it goes a long way. A lot of women, particularly online, will state an opinion and get angry when it's challenged. Oh, it is coming across. Okay, good. Paul's a person. Yeah. Because basically, Marilyn Frye's point in this essay is very similar to her point in her last essay. And that point is, this is not a black and white issue where do the opposite, therefore you've done the right thing, right? But she was talking about like to be lesbian or straight, which is like the correct, which one is like feasible to like defeat patriarchy. And she's like, it's not an either or, it's the other is the answer. So here she's saying it's not about being good or being bad. It's about questioning yourself and like, where's the thing where she explains Julia Penelope's gynecology being evil, so like don't be evil. Vicky Spellman, Daughters and Citizens. Yeah, okay, so she's not saying, okay, so you want to be a good person and do like the right thing. This is like steps 1 to 10 of how to do that. She's like, the solution is not how do I be a good person? The solution is how do I create meaning and create my own set of values that is like internally motivated by me and not by the patriarchy. So it should be quite individualistic, I think. I mean, a lot of Marilyn Frye's like solutions to patriarchal problems seem to come down to like creativity and imagination. And I totally agree with that because, as she points out, just doing the opposite of what the patriarchy does hasn't been fucking working for feminism. You know, we see that. And a lot of the like gender critical position seems to just be like, you know, uniformity is the solution. And if your uniformity is just like a mirror of patriarchy or an exact like response to patriarchy, like a step-by-step response to patriarchy, it's not anything creative or new that hasn't been done before. And it's, so I don't think it's going to be like super successful, and also like it's going to lead to like perpetuation of misogyny. Anyway, where's this part? Oh yes, okay. So the whole like women want to be good, they don't want to be evil, all of this. When I was reading that section, it made me think of the like be kind thing. So for those of you who've been around the gender critical internet for more than a few years, every like year or two, this whole concept of like be kind comes up. So the foundation of that is like an extremely basic understanding of female socialization, where part of that is just like the rhetoricization, like once it becomes rhetoric of the internet. And part of that is also that a lot of these women have zero fucking interest in like expanding their feminist consciousness or their feminist knowledge. So this fucking camera. No. That's bad. Okay. So the women are like, oh, they just want us to be kind when they're talking about shit. And what they mean is like we're supposed to be like acquiescent, we're supposed to be what is the words I'm looking for? Sorry, I'm tired. I was like, it's gonna be so short, 27 minutes in. We're supposed to be accommodating and thoughtful and nice. And when men or groups of people want to fuck us over, we're supposed to like smile and be like thankful. So every once in a while in gender critical online spaces, they'll like the be kind hashtag comes up and they're like, we don't want to just be kind. We want to like stand up for ourselves. And on a basic level, obviously, I fucking understand. I think it's really interesting that a lot of these women who are like be kind is sexist. They're recognizing that in this like gender war, as they would describe it, they just think that's so myopic. Like it's a much bigger, broader issue than like trans things. But in the gender war, the way they would describe it is like we're being vilified for not being kind, and that's misogynistic. They will turn around to other women and say, oh, you asked a question? You saw a screenshot that made you question something? You are not self-righteous and certain like I am? Now I'm going to vilify you. When they vilify me for not acquiescing to their demands and their domination, that's misogyny. When I vilify you for not acquiescing to my demands and my domination, it's because I'm right and you're stupid. It's just so hypocritical to me and insane how they don't understand that they're like replicating mechanisms of patriarchy. This is like something they mentioned in the last essay, right? When you vilify women for stepping out of line, what you're doing is like narrowing what it means to be a feminist. You're narrowing the possibilities for women to advocate for themselves or live their lives in new ways or whatever. Like you're narrowing things down. And this is what like this whole like idea of like supporting the heretic or supporting the rebellious. enforcing uniformity like this, especially because, like, I haven't mentioned this so far in the stream, but especially becomes it's entirely predicated on a hierarchy, right? Is so like fucking destructive and limiting, and it makes me really upset. Yeah, T-Bay says, in my opinion, be kind is just as patronizing as calm down, dear. Yeah, I completely agree with you. It is. But that's my point, is like, I see these gender critical women online who are like, oh, you didn't like it that I said these Nazis were really nice, or the neo-Nazis were like super gentlemanly or whatever. Well, just calm down, dear, because it's not as big of a deal as you're making it sound like it is. You see what I mean? Like, they're doing it to fellow women, and the mechanism through which they're doing it is like patronizing, dismissing, and then demonizing the women for not being on the same side as them. Like, it's just misogyny. And at the end of the day, all the misogyny leads to a complacency with white nationalism, which, like, I don't understand where the, like, moral gray area is around this. It does not compute. Like, Puzzle person says, I find it difficult to navigate the be nice stuff, since obviously being expected to wear kid gloves is meant to restrain our free thought and expression, but some seem to just love being an asshole. Yeah. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. It's like, if you want to have one, you have to, like, be able to deal with the other, I guess. A certain breed of rabble-rousers. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so when I was reading this whole section about, like, the vilified women and the evil women and all of that, so something else. There seems to be a kind of... Now I'm going to talk about a very specific type of woman, and these women I view as complete gender traditionalists. And so I use the term liberal anti-feminist on this channel a lot. These women are not liberal anti-feminists. Let us conjure a word for this type of woman. Let's call her the gender critical anti-feminist. Okay. So the gender critical anti-feminist has a few characteristics, and I'm referencing specifically, like, the second last page of this essay. So the second last page of this essay talks about like associate citizenship. This is a topic this is like a concept that I've mentioned a few times based on like earlier works by Marilyn Frye, but basically it's that men have agency and women have like an associate agency that's like tied to whichever man like owns them at the time, right? So in the essay, Marilyn Frye is like, the way I grew up, we were taught the distinction between a woman and a lady. And so if we went after respectability, we would like earn our associate citizenship. If we did not try to attain the level of lady, we were like the woman, aka like the whore or something denigrating. And she is like, one of the big feminist projects, one of the lesbian projects, is that we can not go after the respectability of being the lady and at the same time have a level of like citizenship, respect, like agency in our society. So this is just kind of like giving a bit of a synopsis about this section. Yeah. So what she's talking about is that you need to like attain a certain level of goodness based on like the patriarchal standard to gain even a modicum of dignity and respect, which will make you like intelligible. And obviously this is a mechanism through which to control women, right? So she is like, what many feminists and lesbians try to do is like not play by those rules of gaining respectability based on patriarchal values, and yet gain a level of agency and respectability amongst ourselves to each other. So that's it's a topic she's talked about before. So with regards to this gender critical anti-feminist, she is a woman who is married to a man, because she mentions it often. She mentions how the reason her opinion should matter is because she is a mother and a wife. In so doing, she is sending a very clear message that if you are not a mother and a wife, your opinion doesn't matter because you don't have the experience and the requisite background to make the moral judgments, to come to the right conclusions that she has. This type of woman does not see herself as an anti-feminist. She sees herself, because her mission is righteous, as a woman who cares about other women, but not in the mean, bad way that the feminists are doing. And it's really unfortunate what this woman does in the gender critical sphere of the internet, because what this woman does is twofold. The first thing she does is she promotes to other women that playing by patriarchy's rules of respectability is an effective strategy for helping women in whichever way is her goal, which we obviously fucking know doesn't really fucking work. Like, kind of, you might moderate the impacts of patriarchy on women around you, but you're not going to like stop the problem, right? The other thing that she does, so she's like modeling this behavior, which, as we can see, the gender critical anti-feminist has grown in population over the last 2 or 3 years, basically post-COVID, as far as I can tell. The other thing that she does is that she, I don't know which word to use, delegitimizes the lesbian or the single woman or the young woman. Anyone who does not have wife-mother status is seen as uninformed and therefore has like less social credit with her opinions. And what this does is something we were talking about like earlier and yesterday. It narrows the scope of what's possible and who can accomplish it and how it can be accomplished. So it's crazy because I don't think they realize they're doing this, but these like gender critical anti-feminists, by polarizing what is right to being this like very rigid, gender normative, heterosexual like role, by normalizing and naturalizing that, what they've done is they've broadened who is considered like the feminazi heretic type. I don't think they realize it. Like, it's alienating a lot of women from their movement, which, if their goal, which is, as far as I understand it, is to convince the average everyday person that if they have a reasonable morality and they look at what's happening with trans stuff, they would be on their side. If that's their goal, then vilifying women who do not fall into this very rigid, heteronormative, patriarchy, determined role, like, it's counter to their goals. And I don't think they realize that. And I don't think they realize how much like woman power, like women who are willing to like do work, women who are willing, like, one of the things I'm trying to get at is like, who do you see in front of cameras? Like, who do you see doing big moves in the gender critical sphere of the internet recently? I remember like in the era of Magdalene Burns, there was a lot more like small time lesbians who had like not respectability in terms of like patriarchal values, like how I'm talking, but they had like notoriety, they had recognition, because it was not seen as like, oh, who are like the big names with a lot of power. This is like the hierarchy thing I'm talking about. It wasn't like, who are the big names with a lot of power that we can like look to tell us what's right and wrong. It was a lot more like decentralized and a lot less like, oh, who has X woman decided is an appropriate spokesperson today. It was more just like, oh, I found this random woman who tweets these cool threads. Like, have you seen her? And I mean, part of that obviously is just like the growth of the movement has kind of like necessitated that there's these kind of like hierarchies and like grouping and stuff. But at that time, there was a lot more lesbians who were like visible and respected and like being elevated and listened to. You can notice the same thing with detrans women, right? The average detrans woman that you have seen a video of her talking and you have read her thread and her thread has like over 1,000 retweets and stuff like that is now, right now, is a straight woman. The average one is a straight woman, or at least in a heterosexual relationship. And that was not the case 4 or 5 years ago. And this is like kind of like right-wing creep, the way I see it. And I don't think that the gender critical, like anti-feminist women who are perpetuating this and role modeling this and enforcing this and like, what is the word I'm looking for? Rewarding this. I don't think that these women understand what they're doing and how damaging it is. Because, I mean, just like fucking obviously it's damaging. Okay, anyway. I meant GC lesbian specifically, yeah. I feel like lesbians have really been tokenized by gender criticals in the last couple years. Like, there have been so many instances of high-profile women, like, calling other women, like, dirty dykes, or, like, just saying, like, outright lesbophobic stuff to them. And everyone's kind of like, well, she does good work, so, like, that's that, I guess. And it's like, every time they do that, it sends a very fucking clear message to all the lesbians around. And then lesbians will stop showing up to in-person stuff. Lesbians will stop participating in hashtags. They'll stop, like, whatever they were doing before that made them like a visible entity, they all slowly stop doing that. Like, I have noticed it. Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's look back at the essay right now. I think that might be that for today, guys. Oh, okay, something else I was going to say but I didn't get around to is going back to like the gynecology, like the good woman, the bad woman, like, you know, womanhood is badness and evilness and all this stuff. I guess I kind of touched on it, but this whole idea that there's like the good women and the bad women within the gender critical sphere of the internet is like, you know, there are women that I disagree with that I think say things that are offensive or ill-informed or like impulsive or, you know, that like I keep following them and I keep retweeting them and I keep like my eye on them because they lead me to think things and respond in ways that I wouldn't without that like offensive stimulation. You know what I'm saying? And my point is basically that just because a woman is like evil or bad or whatever doesn't mean we should like completely write her off. It doesn't mean she has nothing to contribute. And I think that this like very rigid, uniform set of standards is bad. do I want to consider this woman part of my tribe? Or would I recommend her to other women as like a great role model for something specific? Probably not. But I also would not go around saying that like everyone should, you know, deplatform her or follow or like unfollow her or like attack her or something because she doesn't fall into like she doesn't follow my standards of what I think good and bad are. And I wish more women in the gender critical sphere would take that approach, because the alternative is like enforcing your morality, which is, you know, oh, that woman is evil and bad. That's like, you are taking a position which will result in more women trying to be good and be nice, and will limit the scope of what is possible, what are the possible outcomes and the possible thought processes in whatever group you're in. I don't know. Like, for those of you who've been around for a while, don't you find it really fucking exhausting to be in like a gender critical Facebook group or like in a gender critical hashtag on Twitter or something, and everyone is saying the exact same fucking shit every fucking day? It's like fucking exhausting, and it's so boring. Like, I'm exhausted and bored by it. Like, part of the reason I started reading these books on YouTube is because like I literally, it's like there's no stimulation. It's like mind numbing. It literally when I go on my social media hiatus and I had a really interesting conversation with a woman from Alabama about like race politics in her city. And it was like not really relevant to where I live or my experience of the world. And I left that conversation with so many fucking thoughts. And I was like, how great is it to talk to somebody who's talking about something that I know nothing about, who's going to share their experience and their opinions, and I'm going to leave the situation with new thoughts and ideas, and I'm going to have had assumptions I had made challenged. How fucking great is that? And then I opened, like, you know, my social media, like, that's just like one random fucking example. I open my Twitter app, and everyone is agreeing with each other. Everyone is in lockstep using the same rhetoric. And it's like, I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and we were talking about like that we need to be like generating more language to talk about specific concepts, because like language is so limiting to us, and that like limits the way that we think and stuff. And I could not get off the topic that like the internet is killing our fucking brains. Like, I can feel it when I go on my internet hiatus and I'm still reading a bit and I'm having like deep personal conversations with my friends where we like challenge each other or we're very vulnerable with each other. We kind of like generate new ways of thinking with each other. And then you open like gender critical Instagram or fucking TikTok or whatever, and it's like all the same women saying the same shit over and over again, or repeating what they said, like someone else said. And it's like, how is that helpful that you're all saying and doing the same thing and it's not really accomplishing much? Like, try to be individualistic, try to be unique, try to be creative, try to be imaginative. If other women get mad at you for saying something that's against the grain or challenging something that they consider to be a done deal, a given, like, there's one woman that I really respect. I can see her avatar and I can't remember her fucking name. I'm so sorry to that woman. She writes really good blog posts about like right-wing collusion, right-wing creep, ideological drift, all this kind of stuff. Really, really great, amazing stuff. And like almost every time she publishes something, tons of women are up in arms, being like, "You fucking bitch, you're trying to like destroy the movement and like what we're accomplishing and all this shit." And every time she does it, I'm like, first of all, at least she's saying something new. Second of all, I happen to think she's just like fucking right. Also, the fact that she's a woman who's saying something that you disagree with and that she's going to keep saying it anyway is like proof that she's at least trying, you know? What the fuck are you doing? Are you trying? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Kitty Cat says I get annoyed because if I try to comment a different perspective, I get shat upon usually for it. Yeah. I made a tweet like last week or something that was about guys were on the last essay. I'm so sad. I made a tweet last week that was something to do with pronouns. And one woman from I think Somalia, she was like a radical feminist type from Somalia. She was like, I don't get it. Like, just do the pronouns. And I was like, okay, I understand where you got there. I'm not judging you. Like, you probably just haven't looked at the issue from the same perspective that I have. You haven't had the same real world experience of it that I have. Like, you know, that's what you think. That's fine. She got fucking dogpiled. Like, she had like 48 fucking responses that were all like, you support like the gender police, like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, look, fucking leave her alone. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? If you think your position is so is so correct, that you shouldn't be threatened by someone disagreeing with you. You shouldn't have to bully them into agreeing with you. Like, she was responding in good faith. If you're going to disagree with me in good faith, I have like all the fucking time and patience for you. Like, I don't need to like get you to my side, but I'm happy to have a discussion with you, right? I was so upset by her being dogpiled. I actually ended up deleting the original tweet because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? This random woman doesn't really see the problem the same way as us, and she's like well-intentioned and good faith, and she's getting like fucking attacked. It made me so upset, and I'm like, this kind of behavior, this like moral domination is so misogynistic that you're like bullying women over not thinking in lockstep with you. Like, it's so fucking harmful. Blood Moon has a good point. She says, women who dare to say different things get way more dogpiled than men who are often seen as brilliant for it. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up because this was not short. It was almost an hour. Yeah. I actually really regret that I spent this entire time talking about the gender critical sphere of the internet and didn't have a more like macro perspective on things. But I think because of like the discussion I had yesterday with my friend and the interview that I'm going to be doing tomorrow, like together, it's kind of put me in that headspace, which I think in and of itself is kind of like proof that the internet or like internet culture like limits your thinking. Because now it's like all like everything that I think about or like have an epiphany about relates back to that. Whereas if I wasn't engaged in online spaces right now, if I had a thought or an epiphany, it would relate to like multiple different things instead of all being about the fucking internet. So yeah. I'm gonna go. I will see you tomorrow at yeah, I mean we'll see what's up tomorrow. I don't think it's gonna be like groundbreaking or anything, but I just want to basically be like, let's talk about these things. I don't understand why it's viewed as like you're with us or against us, which incidentally means you are complacent and support neo-Nazis or you don't. Like, it's fucking insane. Let's talk about it. Also a bunch of fact checking. There was like assumptions that I made or that women in the online discussions I had seen had made that I repeated and they weren't correct. So we're gonna like fact check some stuff. And then also dehumanize it, because I think that it's really easy to be like, well, there's one woman tweeting about it who was there, and so like that's that. But like, what about all the other women who were involved? What are their thoughts, their feelings? Like, how did it actually go down for them? Like, I feel like it's almost been mythologized, like as it was happening, rather than being seen as like a complex situation that affected many women in many different ways and has like an ongoing impact on them, you know? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So for those of you who will be awake at that time, I will see you tomorrow, which is like the Brits and the Australians. Everybody else in North America, you will probably see later because unlike me, you will not be awake at 5 a.m. All right. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.